Hey soldiers, it looks like the criminal element is actually winning the war on crime in certain cities throughout America. In fact, the federal government has basically surrendered to the local criminal element in one city in particular. We're going to tell you exactly what city that is and how the federal government has just said no mas.
It didn't take long. Within the first hour of being at Walgreens on Geary Boulevard and 17th Avenue in San Francisco, we witnessed multiple shoplifters. One of them even took the time to explain why he simply didn't pay.
San Francisco, bro.
Off camera, a Walgreens employee told me they're hit anywhere between 15 to 20 times a day. Out of frustration, a week and a half ago, they decided to chain up their freezer section. This is one of the hardest hit areas in their store. Now, when you want something, you have to press this button. A message goes off on the overhead speaker, and an employee comes to unlock the freezer. According to the employee we spoke to, company policy says they can't challenge shoplifters. Almost every aisle has products locked behind plastic cases. We asked what the brown marks were. Turns out shoplifters have tried to burn the cases. But Walgreens is not the only store that's been victimized by crime here. Across from it is this cigarette shop. They were burglarized a month ago. The owner said he lost over $100,000 in merchandise and cash.
Well, I hope somebody pay attention, to stop this. We can't afford it, like that's a small business. We can't afford it like $100,000. Somebody came and take here, nobody do anything about it. That's really hard for us.
And 2 days before that breaking, this coffee shop across the street was also hit.
The city, mayor, or anybody, they don't do anything. Nobody pay attention, nobody do anything. I don't know why. What we do, we have no choice.
All right, now why do we talk about crime on a economic news and education channel? Well, the reason we do is because unlike other forms of criminal activity, let's take Sam Bankman-Fried and the crypto scam that he's alleged of committing. Take Elizabeth Holmes and what she has been convicted of doing. If you're not an investor in those organizations, then there is little to no impact that you will experience from that. However, in these inner cities, you don't have to be the one that was mugged. You don't have to be the one that was carjacked. You don't have to own the store where the mob came in and just took hundreds of thousands of dollars of merchandise. No, you don't have to be any of those things in order to be economically affected by that crime. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's say you own a home in a certain city that's beset with criminal activity. What do you think the chances of you selling that home? What does your property insurance look like? Okay. As far as the city tax base is concerned, probably a lot of people fleeing. I know that's the case in Baltimore City, where they're steadily losing population, lose about 1% a year. People want to get out. They want to go to safer environs. They want their children to be in a better situation in terms of the school system. And that means learning and safety. Okay. So criminal activity has a definite and deleterious effect on everybody in a municipality, even if they're not a direct victim of crime. You want to take your wife or significant other, you want to take them to a downtown restaurant if you know that anything could just pop off at any moment. We've profiled that here before. We're going to get to how the federal government actually surrendered to crime in a certain city. But before we do that, let's look at it from another angle. Now we got another big retailer calling it quits, saying we are out of San Francisco. What about the jobs? What about them? If you want to come over here 10 miles, 50 miles away and work for the next Nordstroms, come on. But if not, sorry, we are out. So you got employees that are going to lose their positions. You got shoppers who are now going to be inconvenienced. And you've got a big part of the tax base. Sayonara, San Francisco. I left my Nordstroms in San Francisco. Inside the empty flagship Nordstrom's in San Francisco, closing after more than 3 decades. After multiple decades, San Francisco's Nordstrom flagship store is closing. It has closed. By the time you see this, it has closed. It was a once vibrant store, and it's now desolate with mannequins packaged away and many empty displays in sectioned off areas. Quote, it's half of the mall that is no longer going to be here. I do think it might change the businesses. You can already see it. It's unfortunate, unquote, said a Nordstrom employee who did not want to be identified. So that Nordstrom out there was an anchor store for the mall. And yes, it definitely is going to change the tone and the attraction of that particular mall. I've seen this happen. There used to be a mall out here called Owings Mills Mall, okay? And it was the toast of the town. And guess what? The state decided to put a subway stop right outside the mall, and it was all downhill from there. So that Nordstrom employee is saying, hey, look, this is an anchor store. It's the biggest store. It's half the mall. What do you think is going to happen, right? A blow for the city's largest mall just months after Westfield pulled out of operating the shopping center. So everybody, they're abandoning ship. Quote, it's definitely partially due to the crime in the area, said the Nordstrom employee. According to the latest city data, this is San Francisco, sales tax revenue for south of Market neighborhood the mall is located in has seen a 25% decrease from the first quarter of 2019 to 2023. That's what you call a material impact. The city's executive director of the Office of Economic and Workforce Development says the way people shopped has changed, and downtown will also need to change. Yeah, downtown will need to change. Back to an era where if you stole something, you got arrested for it. You didn't get, redirection and all this other stuff. Look, I am not saying that a first-time offender should get thrown in prison for 30 years. Absolutely not. I'm not saying they should have their lives destroyed for that. Absolutely not. But I am saying that if you are a repeat offender and you also have predilection toward violence, then yeah, you should be taken out of society with the rest of us that want to play nice. So, and I don't apologize for that. And until you start doing that and having the mindset of, okay, this is a first-time nonviolent offender, this individual can be rehabilitated. We do not need to destroy this person's life from, the thug that is going to hurt someone, okay, and then destroy and or steal property for the upteenth time. Yeah, there needs to be a clear delineation in terms of the punishment between the two. So that's what's going on there. Now, look, let me tell you this. We've got them leaving. We've seen 25% of the tax base, decline since 2019. The federal government, the feds, say stay home. They tell their San Francisco workers to telecommute due to crime wave. Crime is so bad near San Francisco's U.S. Department of Health and Human Services federal building that officials have advised hundreds of employees to work remotely for the foreseeable future, citing public safety concerns outside the Nancy Pelosi federal building on 7th Street, which houses several federal agencies, including Health and Human Services, the Department of Labor, the Department of Transportation, and Nancy Pelosi's office. Officials issued the stay-at-home recommendation on August 4th. So you got none other than the powerful U.S. government capitulating, saying, you know what? It's just nothing we can do. Okay, we gotta give in to the mob. We gotta tell our employees that they can't actually come to this office building that we're using taxpayer money to pay for. They gotta work from home because of crime. In light of the conditions at the federal building, we recommend employees maximize the use of telework for the foreseeable future. This is according to a copy of the memo by HHS, Health and Human Services, Assistant Secretary for Administration Cheryl R. Campbell, and obtained by the San Francisco Chronicle, which notes that the area surrounding the building is home to one of the city's most brazen open-air drug markets. And so you can't arrest people these days because you got to worry first about, well, what do they identify as? What about their ancestors? How were they treated? All of the stuff that prevents you from caring for the productive citizens and making sure they have an environment in which they can safely walk to and from work. The memo came on the same day that, according to Axios, President Biden's White House Chief of Staff called for more federal employees to return to their offices after years of remote work due to you-know-what. So on the one hand, the bulk of the government is saying basically, hey, if you live somewhere where there isn't like rampant crime, it's not some blue enclave where they use unicorn power and love to solve every problem, you can go ahead and return to the office. But in San Francisco, no, you can't do it. So this is how crime is actually affecting our economy. And it looks like, at least from the federal government standpoint and standpoint of San Francisco and other major metropolitan areas, there's really no will to get in between crime and, you know, the productive citizens and protect them and their property. So it's just a tragic situation. Listen, I want you to check out this video. You might get a kick out of it. No romance without finance. You will be amazed at what some people have started doing before they go out on a date in terms of checking them out to see if they, you know, are economically compatible. Check out this video, guys. I'll talk to you soon.